Good evening, everybody. I want to take a little bit of time this evening and talk about things that go bump in the night, the idea that there is energy that lives on. We're talking ghosts, baby. It's ghost time. So, for those of you who may not be familiar with who I am or what I'm all about, I've been a psychic professionally since 1987. Oh my God. And I did it kind of accidentally, but once I started, I got a lot of attention. I was on the biggest radio station in the Midwest, one of the biggest rock stations in the Midwest, within a couple of months of the first time I did a professional reading. I was on national TV for a couple of years. If you're up at 4 o'clock in the morning and felt bad and had $3.99 in your pocket for every minute you wanted to talk, you may have seen me on Cabrina Psychic Answer. And during this period, when I was in my early 30s, I did criminal cases and I did a bunch of things. And one of the things that I did was go look for ghosts. And I'm going to tell you in just a minute about my very first time doing a ghost hunt and what that was like. But before I do that, I want to talk too for just a second about some of my theories about ghosts, where they come from, what exactly is a ghost, how do ghosts operate. And it's probably 2010, somewhere in that range. I was on a podcast with a bunch of more famous psychics. I was kind of the least famous of the group and just was kind of there, didn't really say much. And we had callers. And one of the callers called in, was asking about her house, and it was haunted. And they were doing, all the people on the panel were saying all these things, and there was nothing was really going. And I asked her what I thought was a kind of an important question. And that question have you ever lived any place else that was haunted? Her answer was yes, I have. And I got to show off a little bit in that call and describe some of the places that she'd lived. But basically, what it boils down to is this: ghosts are energy, just latent energy, and they need something to plug into to work. And typically, the thing that they plug into that makes it all work is a human and their emotions, which is why you often see poltergeists around 13, 14-year-old girls. I'm kind of, and Angela can attest to this, I'm kind of like a living poltergeist myself at this point, even though I'm 71. But in a lot of ways, I'm kind of like a teenage girl, only without hair. So what happens is that there's an energetic imprint. There is a memory, and that memory can take form in a multitude of ways. But in order for activity, what paranormal people go looking for, in my theory, what makes that happen is the electrical energy. That electrical energy could be someone who is psychologically going through some stuff. It could also be electrical energy within the atmosphere itself. It could be that there's a lot of copper under the ground. It could be because it's by a river. There are things that can happen. So it's a combination of energy as a memory, but in order to really activate it, it's like a vacuum cleaner. It needs to plug into, it needs to plug into the wall. And that wall is going to be more often than not a person and the emotional imprint that comes along with that person. So for our caller in this particular podcast, she was bringing that power pack with her wherever she went. Now, conversely, because she has a kind of a haunted energy, this would be true for me too. not only do you bring an extra jolt of electricity with you, you are drawn unconsciously, perhaps, towards those places that will provide a ghostly presence. I want to give you an example. The very first time I ever did what's called a ghost hunt, which I was 33 years old. It was 1988. And I had a friend who was in my creative writing classes at Ohio State. She was a poetry professor. She was a graduate assistant, but taught poetry. And her brother was the music director for a big church downtown in Columbus, Ohio. We were at Ohio State, Columbus, Ohio, and that's where I started working as a professional psychic, again, kind of accidentally. So we went and I met him and talked to him. And I started walking around this church, big, beautiful church. And I walked out about midway through the church and I feel like I can't go anywhere. And he said, Oh, well, the original church only went out to where you're standing. Now, you couldn't tell that because they had expanded it in such a way as completely seamless. You would have never known that there was any addition or that there was any point in time where that church ended, right? Okay. So far, so good. Again, I'd never done anything like this. I was still kind of new to the scene. I was young and had only been working professionally for less than 6 months. And then I walked over to the left as you originally looked at the pew you looked at the front of the church. And I went to the left and there was a door that went to another wing of the church. And I opened this door and I felt kind of like frozen in space. And I said, for some reason, I don't feel like I can go past this door. Because, well, where you're at, that was an addition that was like in the 40s or 50s or whatever. So they built this entire extra wing to the church. So, so the point of this is that whoever I was connecting with, the ghost that was there to talk to me, the ghost that was kind of the crux of the story. She, and it turned out to be a she, was not used to or didn't feel comfortable going past the space that she remembered. I, walking around, felt like it's like an electric fence for your Cocker Spaniel. I did not go past those points. And I had no earthly reason to not expect to be able to keep going. So we talked for a while, and I started getting an image in my head of a woman who was part of like a choir or something. So I asked Sue's friend, or asked her brother, excuse me, I asked Sue's brother, um, was there any story or anything where there was a kind of a complication with a relationship, perhaps with two people that were like you, that were a music director? And he said, well, back in the 20s, there was a kind of and I'm paraphrasing this. Again, I'm 71, I'm senile, I don't remember everything. But there was, in fact, a woman who was involved with a married man, and it didn't go well. And this was in the 1920s. Okay. So at this point, I began suspecting, and this is suspecting, that perhaps this woman was, in fact, the energy, her unrequited love, her frustration, whatever emotions she may have had, were still tied into the memory in some way as an imprint of volatile emotional energy that was being suppressed, held in check. A woman in love with a married man in the church in 1920s, in the 1920s, I believe it was 1926. So that's a lot of energy. and where does it go? While I was thinking of this, I started seeing in my head, psychics see stuff in the head, dude, what can I tell you? I started seeing in my head a room that looked like it was filled with filing cabinets, black filing cabinets. So I asked Sue's brother, I said, is there a room someplace that's just big room filled with filing cabinets? Because, oh yeah, it's upstairs. We go up here, you go up to the right, it's on the second floor. All right. So I have this image. I'm thinking that there's in fact a room with filing cabinets, which there is in this church. And in my head, I saw sheet music. And I saw in my head a musical notation for a dotted whole note. That a song that ended with a dotted whole note, which just means you have to hold the note longer than perhaps typical. So I suggested to Sue's brother, I said, I think that is a really strong chance that whoever this woman was who was involved with the choir director, whoever he was in the 1920s, is in fact the ghostly energy. And I told him about what I saw with the sheet music. And I said, I'd like to go upstairs if that's okay. And we can go check out just check out this room. So I walked into this room. There's probably 30, 40 file cabinets, black file cabinets, 4 drawers each. I swear to God, this is true. I walk in, I walk to one specific file cabinet. I open the file cabinet. I reach in, I pull out one sheet of music. Now, this is kind of a freak, and it was not going to happen too often, but it happened that evening. And I looked at the sheet music. It was a hymn, and I don't remember the name of the hymn. The very last note was, in fact, a dotted whole note. And the very last line of this hymn was, and I will live in thine house forever. I was like, chills, dog. I mean, it was chills for me. Energy imprints, it's there. I was in places in Nashville, which is a very haunted place. And I lived in a house. And the first time I went to this house, I looked in the upper window. I saw these people. It was a man, a thin man, a much heavier. His wife was very heavy, and a young girl. And I saw them in the upstairs window. This was in East Nashville, an area of Nashville that is primarily African American. I lived a block from Oprah Winfrey's father's barbershop in East Nashville. Years later, after I had left Nashville, I found out that the original owner of this house had come back for some reason. Um, and Let me rephrase that. Someone who had bought the second owner of this house had come back to visit it for some reason and went in and struck up a conversation with the people that still live there and described, there was an older woman, she was kind of heavy, and there was a kind of a really skinny man, and they lived there in whenever, 1910 or whenever that was, 1930s probably, I don't know, a long time ago. So am I Wonder Boy clairvoyant, or was that energy there, or is it a little bit of both? Love lives on. But going back to the original thing I said, that energy imprints. And in order for that imprint to kind of spark up, it needs an electrical outlet. And typically the electrical outlet is human emotion. Now, conversely, there are places that are just haunted as fuck. They just are. And, kind of when the word gets out, like artists want to go to Greenwich Village, um, you know, ghosts or that kind of energy kind of comes together. Why? How? I don't know. I don't know everything, but this has been my experience. Many of you are probably able to experience ghostly presence. a different kind of energy. It's a feeling that you have. And for some of you, probably most of you, you may not have the ability to kind of visualize it in your head in the same way that I might or somebody else might. But that doesn't mean that you're not feeling it. It doesn't mean that you're not aware of it. It doesn't mean that you can't recognize it. One of the things that happens to young psychics is that they're taught that their their feelings are incorrect. They're also taught that they don't deserve to have that. A lot of the challenges that young psychics, excuse me, face is not so much accessing their intuition, but dealing with the fear and the self-confidence issues for all the trauma and childhood madness that they've gone through that have taught them not to trust themselves, not to believe in themselves. But I'm betting a lot of you have this instinct where you feel it. And the more that you can stay calm and believe in yourself, the more easily you will be able to tap into any of that information and that latent sort of spook energy that may exist in a particular place. And the place matters. Because in the example that I used from the church in Columbus, the woman who was there because her lover was there and she couldn't let it go, she did not want to leave the confines of where that church was in 1926. If 60 years later it's way bigger, it's no concern of hers. She remembers it as it was in 1926. And as I tried to make some sort of connection with her, I acted as if I remembered it because I felt I can't go here, I can't go here, I can't open this door and go through this wing, I can't go past these pews, the church doesn't go there to me. Excuse me. So, to kind of summarize this, ghosts exist. I'm convinced that spiritual energy exists. There is a spiritual world, just like there's the world we're in. To me, it's just as real. And when we die, I don't think, I always say we have one foot here and one foot there. The death is not really a cessation, it's more of just switching focus in the way we're just paying attention to different things. And in future videos, excuse me, I will talk more about reincarnation, which is kind of one of my passions. But for this evening, I just want to do a little quick thing. I'm just now getting started doing YouTube videos. Did TV in the 80s and the 90s. I did a bazillion podcasts from like 2007 until like 2015. And then I kind of dropped off the earth for a little bit and retired. I did kind of retire. And now, an old man, I'm trying to come back. I'm starting my YouTube video. And if you're interested, please like and subscribe to my video. That's the first time I ever got a chance to say that. Please like and subscribe. But please, if you feel inclined, please subscribe to my channel, Karmic Outlaw, and please like the video. Yeah. So, the ghost, she wanted to live in that house forever, and I will live in thine house forever. Dotted hole note, one shot, pull it out of a room full of 40 file cabinets. The first and only piece of sheet music I picked out. Swear to God, it's true. And when I asked the woman on that podcast, have you ever lived someplace else that was haunted? And the answer, as I assumed it would be, was yes. Which was interesting at the time that it kind of freaked people out. Like they never thought of it, which to me seems kind of crazy. To me, it seems like the most obvious question you would ask. So, once again, my name is Andy Brewer. My website is andrew-brewer.com. I've been voted multiple times as one of the top 50 psychics in the world. Was the man of the year and male light worker of the year. Like in 2016 or 2017, in this big contest they used to have, I was on national TV in the 90s in a thing called Cabrina Psychic Answer with Eric Estrada and Jenny Lee Harrison and half the cast of General Hospital, and Richard Roundtree, who was Shaft. That was pretty cool. An 8-time Amazon category bestseller with a book called Karmic Outlaw about past lives, past life in the fast lane, and my sort of favorite book, Suck My Root Chakra, Love and Nightmares. So, wishing everybody a happy summer. Thank you. If you've made it this far, thank you for joining in. Um, but for all you young, old, in between ghost hunters, it's the emotion that you're tapping into. And the more that you can find a calmness within yourself, the more easily it's going to be for you to feel that vibration. And the vibration is the true signature that gives you the entry point to make that connection. So, happy thoughts. Um, and I will see you all later. All the best. Let's see if I have the motor skills to end this video. I do. I'm in meaning for all. All the best, everybody. Thank you for joining in.